So the idea here is I may have been sort of modeling correct posture wrong and successfully adopted wrong posture in certain ways. And so I'm going to try and do a sort of chest and maybe also general spine correction. And then beyond that, I may just do dance or meditation or other practices. Sort of mixing everything in is part of what accelerates the process. So I'll start with that. This happens like every time I do this, where it restarts the second counter. But I think I checked once and I still had the intro, so I'm going to proceed as if my intro is still part of the video. I'm going to be doing it while, I don't know, I'm going to listen to something, watch something. Yeah, I will. This is culturally.
Last time.
Culturally, what's the word? Enriching. Okay. Let's check. Maybe a little lower would be better. Let me just see here. Let's see. There is likely going to be some amount of hip adjustment connected to the chest adjustment. Which means the belly will also be affected, of course. Right. So here. Ah. I started discovering this stuff because I had an RSI that suggests some kind of structural deficiency. And the thing about a structural deficiency is that you can't look at any specific part and say that is wrong. I mean, maybe it's wrong in its way, but it's not like that wrongness is an explanation for what's going on. Wow. Oh. Huh. Okay. Okay. Oh. Huh. Hmm. When I was young, I was told not to lift with your back, to lift with your legs. I think that led to a behavioral imbalance, which has now developed into a physiological imbalance, manifesting as a postural deformity at every layer of posture, including mental, emotional, and physical stance, as well as something like behavioral stance and interaction with the environment, with the other. The strongest people in the world have often a bit of fat on them. I think it's important for the muscles to be enveloped in layers of tissue that assist in processing. Fascia and fat and skin and layers of blood, I suspect. But there are areas around the body that get too much of this sort of extra. It reminds me of myelinization. I believe it's called myelination, where this sort of substance, this myelin, coats the neural branches and roots, you might say, in the neural tissue, and then facilitates rapid communication across every part of the encased network. crucial move here is something like dissociating from the pleasure or the good feelings. At least the model that's coming to mind is that you create the good feelings and then you shunt them into the subconscious. And as you go through this process, the subconscious becomes more and more full of them, and you perceive your environment to be more and more positive. So rather than seeing yourself as the repository of the good things, you perceive the environment. Now, of course, your perception of the environment is an aspect of your own inner world simulation.
On the journey to the west, the mischievous Monkey King Sun Wukong, after achieving immortality 6 ways from Sunday, was brought down by the forces of heaven and placed inside Lao Tzu's brazier of the 8 trigrams to be rendered down into an immortal elixir. However, our hero proved too powerful for this scheme and broke free, wreaking even more havoc in heaven. But his reign of terror was abruptly ended when he was imprisoned by the heavenly Buddha beneath the 5 Phases mountain, where he must now wait for a chosen someone to come set him free. So Buddha returns to his home, the Thunderclap Monastery, where he spends a relaxing 500 years writing up 3 baskets of scripture. Now, these 3 scriptures are apparently so powerful that they are capable of redeeming even the most sinful of sinners. Well, sounds fishy to me, but hey, I'm not the guy with the universe in the palm of his hand. So these amazeballs scriptures need to be delivered to the land of the East in order to spread Buddhism to the sinful folk who live there. But there's just one problem. For some reason, Buddha can't deliver them himself, so they need to find someone in the land of the East who can make the journey to the Western Heaven to pick up the scriptures and then return with them. Our friend the Bodhisattva Kuan Yin volunteers to find such a person, and after receiving 5 magical artifacts to give to the scripture pilgrim, she goes off eastward to find someone worthy of making the journey to the West. So Kuan Yin and her disciple Moksha head out along the route the scripture pilgrim will have to take, as a way to test the waters and make sure the guy can make it through in the first place. Their first encounter with a murderous river spirit 3 minutes out from the Thunderclap Monastery is not exactly encouraging, but Kuan Yin persuades the guy to chill out and wait for the pilgrim, and then to join and aid him on his quest, with the added bonus that he'll be redeemed for the crime that got him exiled to the river in the first place. He accepts the offer and is given the name Sha Wu Qing, or Sandy for short. Don't ask me how Sandy is short for Sha Wu Qing. So Kuan Yin and Moksha continue on their merry way, whereupon they encounter a pig demon wielding a huge rake. He and Moksha fight for a little bit until he notices Kuan Yin and immediately stops the fight in favor of asking her for forgiveness, because he's made something of a habit of eating people who come along the road, because he's a demon. Kuan Yin again suggests that he join the pilgrim too when he comes along this way and thus be forgiven for the whole eating people thing. And the pig agrees, and Kuan Yin is putting this pilgrim in pretty questionable company. Kuan Yin gives him the name Chu Wu Neng, Pigsy for short, and heads off, leaving Wu Neng to remain strictly vegetarian until the pilgrim arrives. So they continue onwards when, surprise, they encounter yet another charming individual who could potentially help our as yet nebulous pilgrim. Can you tell that this story is the origin of a lot of anime tropes? In this case, our colorful character is a young dragon who accidentally set fire to his dad's palace a little, and for this transgression against fire safety has been sentenced to death by the Jade Emperor. Kuan Yin persuades the Emperor to pardon the young dragon, and then she directs him to a nearby river, where she instructs him to turn into a white horse when the pilgrim passes by to help him reach his destination. Anyway, they continue on, only to encounter an unexpectedly luminous mountain, the Mountain of Five Phases, and with it the imprisoned Monkey King. So Wukong's like, Kuan Yin, how's it going, girl? Great to see you. It's been really lonely for the past 500 years, Nobody ever comes by to visit. And Kuan Yin's like, yeah, that's great. Listen, I'm about to go find someone to make a pilgrimage for me. He'll be coming by soonish. He's going to release you from this mountain, and then you need to help him get where he's going. You got that? And Wukong's like, 10-4, good buddy. Yep, I am just all about that virtuous mission. So Kuan Yin and Moksha arrive in the city of Chang'an and disguise themselves so as not to attract too much attention. Then they set about finding the right monk to serve as the protagonist to this little adventure. Speaking of protagonist, here's where the book veers off into a tangent to describe the ludicrously convoluted family history of this dude, Xuanzang, who, in case you hadn't already guessed, is our soon-to-be protagonist. Now, Xuanzang has one of the most complicated family histories in all of epic protagonism. I won't recount the whole thing here because that would take all day, but basically he's the grandson of an emperor, he's been raised as a monk his whole life after being Mosesed by his mother, and he's the reincarnation of Golden Cicada, an original disciple of the Buddha and a holy being. So Xuanzang is basically the best guy ever, and a total sweetheart despite the wacky circumstances of his birth. So long story short, 3 court officials convene to select a worthy monk for reasons completely unrelated to Kuan Yin's mission, and of course they select Xuanzang, the biggest Boy Scout in all of ancient China. Anyway, Kuan Yin catches wind of this and goes to see if he's worthy of being the scripture pilgrim. She finds her way to the court officials and gives them 2 of the various gifts the Buddha had given her to give to the pilgrim, so that they might give them to the most virtuous monk they know. So Xuanzang gets a beautiful robe and a priestly staff, both courtesy of Kuan Yin, and Kuan Yin learns that Xuanzang is the best man for the job. So the Grand Mass, which is the thing that they selected Xuanzang for, happens, wherein Xuanzang has to present a memorial to the Tang Emperor. Kuan Yin takes the opportunity to steal the show by revealing herself in all her glory to the court, and officially requests a volunteer from the audience to go on the pilgrimage to go to the Western Heaven and retrieve the Tripitaka, which is the official name for the thing the Buddha made. Xuanzang obviously volunteers, just as planned, and Xuanzang is given the by-name Tripitaka and sent on his merry way with a horse and 2 attendants to help him. Don't get too attached to them, though, as the party is captured by demons almost immediately, and Tripitaka's 2 attendants are killed and eaten. Great start. So the demons finish their attendant buffet and bunker down for the night, leaving poor Tripitaka to ponder his exciting future as lunch meat, when suddenly a mysterious old man appears out of nowhere and frees him, and Tripitaka's like,
where the heck did you come from?
And the old man's like, don't ask stupid questions, here's your horse. So Tripitaka and the old man zip out of the cave, and Tripitaka goes to thank him, only to find that he's vanished, leaving a note explaining that he was the gold star of Venus himself, providing a helpful bit of divine intervention. So Tripitaka goes on by himself for about half a day, only to discover that he really doesn't have the constitution for all this questing nonsense, and he and his horse are just about done with everything, when who should come to the rescue but a friendly, boisterous hunter named Po Chin, who spooks all the beasties that were harassing Tripitaka and offers to guide him to his home. So Po Chin and his family have Tripitaka over for dinner, which is slightly awkward because Tripitaka is extremely vegetarian and Po Chin's family hunts all their food, but they handle it gracefully, and Tripitaka further endears himself to the family when he accidentally pacifies the ghost of Po Chin's father, like you do, which prompts Po Chin to offer to guide Tripitaka to the mountain on the border of the Tang Empire to ensure no further hijinks ensue. Did somebody say hijinks? So as it turns out, the mountain they get to is none other than Five Phases Mountain, where our good buddy Sun Wukong is still languishing. So Wukong's like, yo, kid, are you that pilgrim guy? Kuan Yin said you'd be coming by to let me out. And Tripitaka's like,
Awesome. How do I do that? That mountain looks kind of heavy.
and Wukong's like, you just gotta climb to the top and peel off the golden seal. So Tripitaka manages to get the seal off the mountain, and after he backs off to the minimum safe distance, Wukong breaks the mountain in half and zips on over. So Tripitaka and Sun Wukong continue westward together, but they've hardly gone 10 feet down the road when suddenly they're beset by bandits. So Wukong's like, don't worry, master, I know exactly what to do in this situation, and proceeds to kill all the bandits with his trusty stick thing. But Tripitaka's like,
Son, we don't kill people.
and Wukong's like, I think you mean you don't kill people. And Tripitaka's like,
No, you're Buddhist now. Buddhists do not kill.
and Wukong's like, ooh, look at Mr. Big Shot over here telling me who I can and can't kill, and storms off in a huff, which, if you'll recall his not inconsiderable mobility, means the Monkey King is over the horizon before poor Tripitaka can get a retort out. So Tripitaka heads off on his own for a bit when he runs into a mysterious old woman holding a fancy shirt and cap. So the old lady's like, hey, what's the matter, kid? You look like a superpowered disciple just totally ditched you or something. And Tripitaka's like,
You got it in one, mysterious old woman. If only I had some way to discipline him, maybe the story could actually progress.
And the old woman's like, funny you should say that. May I recommend that you give him these fancy duds, then recite this spell? I have this weird feeling that it'll stop causing so much trouble if you do. And Tripitaka's like,
Seems legit.
Then the old lady turns into a beam of light and vanishes because she was really Kuan Yin. So thus far, Tripitaka's 2 for 2 for old people secretly being gods. Meanwhile, Wukong is off having a nice little tea party with the Dragon Emperor, who suggests that he go back to Tripitaka rather than abandoning enlightenment and true immortality over a single argument. Wukong zips back westward, blowing past Kuan Yin in the process, who'd flown over in order to convince him of that very course of action. So Wukong warps back to Tripitaka, who offers him the clothes. Wukong, always a sucker for a new wardrobe, throws them on, finding that they fit him perfectly. He's rather less thrilled to discover that the hat is cursed, and when Tripitaka recites the spell Kuan Yin taught him, it shrinks and gives him a splitting headache. Of course, it wouldn't be much of a cursed artifact if he could take it off, so it's also spot welded to his head. After a few very entertaining minutes of Wukong trying furiously to escape the hat by any means necessary, he eventually resigns himself to the fact that he won't be able to get up to his usual hijinks anymore. So the dynamic duo continue onwards with the balance of power now tilted slightly more evenly. It doesn't take long before they arrive at a nice calm stream that happens to be home to an enormous fuck you dragon. Wukong nopes the hell out of there with Tripitaka in tow, and the dragon takes the opportunity to eat Tripitaka's horse. So Tripitaka freaks out since without a ride he's stranded, but he's also too scared to let Wukong leave him alone. But a bit of timely divine intervention arrives to protect Tripitaka, leaving Monkey free to confront the dragon. So they fight it out for a bit, but the dragon's like, screw it, and dives to the river bottom and refuses to come out. Wukong does some magic shenanigans and draws the dragon out again, only for the dragon to turn into a water snake and run away. At this point, Wukong is done, but the local mountain spirits tell him that this dragon is actually under orders by Kuan Yin to help them. So one of the heavenly spirits goes and gets her, and after a brief digression where Wukong vents at her about the cursed hat thing, she draws out the dragon, and Wukong picks a fight with him, too. Look, he's had a trying day, alright? Anyway, Kuan Yin gets the dragon to turn into a horse for Tripitaka to replace the one he ate, and then to make Wukong stop sulking, she gives him 3 get-out-of-danger-free magical leaves. So now, with the matter having been resolved to everyone's satisfaction, our dynamic trio continue westward. So anyway, they continue on and arrive at still yet another monastery, run by a sketchy old monk. Long story short, the monk lays eyes on that really fancy monk robe Tripitaka got way back when, it's called a cassock, by the way, and takes it into his head to steal it, and to that end, he decides the best way to go about it is to burn down his own monastery. Well, that's not very zen of him. So Wukong smells the smoke, weighs his options, and decides the best way to solve the situation without pissing off Tripitaka is to let the monks burn their monastery to the ground. But first he borrows a fireproof cloak from one of his heavenly buddies to make sure Tripitaka and the horse don't burn with it. Is it just me, or is Monkey on shockingly good terms with all the people he beat the hell out of in the last video? The fire eventually burns itself out, and Tripitaka finally wakes up, only for them to find out that during all the confusion, a mountain demon came by and stole the cassock. Also, the patriarch monk killed himself. So anyway, Wukong zips on over to the demon's mountain and they fight, but the demon calls a lunch break and locks himself in his mountain. So Wukong zips back to the ruined monastery for snacks, then returns to the mountain to sneak in. So Wukong disguises himself as the old monk and has a little tea party with the mountain demon, and then they fight more. But the demon runs away again, and Wukong decides to call in the cavalry. He goes to Kuan Yin, and together they figure out another way to sneak in and get the cassock back. Kuan Yin disguises herself as a Taoist friend of the demons, and Monkey King disguises himself as a present from that friend, a pill of immortality. Long story short, Wukong beats up the demon from the inside. Ew. Kuan Yin retrieves the cassock, and Wukong returns it to Tripitaka, and they continue on their merry way. Will son Wukong learn to value friendship over his impulsive desires? Will Tripitaka succeed in his quest to the Thunderclap Monastery? Will that stupid horse ever remember he can fly? Find out next time on Journey to the West. Last time on the Journey to the West, the virtuous monk Tripitaka set out on his journey to the Thunderclap Monastery, where he was soon joined by the powerful but foolhardy Sun Wukong. Though the Monkey King was originally too stubborn and reckless to be controlled, Kuan Yin saved Tripitaka from an early end to his story by inflicting a cursed restraining bolt on the uncontrollable Monkey King, forcing Wukong to finally put someone else's needs before his own. After defeating a monstrous river dragon who then joined their team, the trio soon found themselves faced with new perils, for the mountains are full of greedy and murderous demons, and our heroes have a very long way left to go. So our heroes continue westward and arrive at the outskirts of a nearby village, where Wukong notices an apparently unusual-looking young man. He immediately grabs the kid and starts interrogating him about the village, and although he's unsurprisingly rather reluctant to answer, the young man, whose name is Cao Tsai, eventually spills that something's actually amiss, and the village isn't quite so idyllic as it looks. See, a while back, a big ugly monster shapeshifted into a handsome dude and married a young woman from Cao Tsai's extended family. Then after the marriage, he, let himself go a little, and his father-in-law, the patriarch of the family, objected rather strenuously to having such a hideous monster as a son-in-law. So he sent Cao Tsai out to find someone to exorcise the demon, which has so far been unsuccessful. Now, of course, Monkey's like, boy, are you in luck. I happen to be an expert at kicking demon ass. So they enter the village and talk to the patriarch, who confirms that 3 years ago, the super handsome dude showed up asking for his youngest daughter's hand in marriage. The patriarch agreed, but the handsome dude turned out to be an ugly shape-shifting pig demon instead. I'd make an online dating joke, but I'm more surprised by the fact that with shape-shifting as ubiquitous as it is in this world, why doesn't this kind of thing happen more often? So anyway, even though the pig demon's a pretty hardworking guy, he's super ugly and kind of possessive, and all the patriarch really wants is his daughter back, and for the pig dude to not be affiliated with him or his family anymore. So in this exciting episode, Sun Wukong gets to serve divorce papers. So Wukong casually rescues the patriarch's daughter. Yeah, like that'd be hard for him. And then shapeshifts to look like her and lies in wait for the pig demon. Soon enough, the demon returns and Wukong's like, oh man, darling, my parents are just being so rude about us. I hear they're getting someone to exorcise you. Oh, no need to worry, sweet cheeks. There's no exorcist alive that can hurt me. I think they said his name was Sun Wukong? Well, it's been fun, sweetheart, but I need to go disappear for a few. Where are you going, darling? So they fight, and Wukong chases him back to his secret lair at Cloudy Path's cave, and along the way, he learns that the pig demon actually used to be a member of the Court of Heaven, who got sloppy drunk, hit on a woman way too many times, and got turned into a monster and kicked out of heaven as punishment. He would have been executed, but our boy the Gold Star of Venus intervened on his behalf. Not to be jaded, but that kind of seems like the only thing the Gold Star of Venus does. So then they fight, and it's awesome, but then the pig demon calls a timeout and runs away. So Wukong returns to Tripitaka and fills him in, and takes a moment to sass the patriarch cow for being a pretty bad father-in-law to his relatively hardworking demon son-in-law. And then he zips back to fight the pig demon again. So they fight some more, and eventually Monkey asks why the pig demon's fighting him with a rake, and the demon's like, a rake? Ha! It is no ordinary rake. One blow from this and your very soul will be rent asunder. You were saying? I think I'd like to surrender now, please. So as it turns out, this rake-wielding pig demon is the very same rake-wielding pig demon that Kuan Yin enlisted to help Tripitaka. So after Monkey learns this, he takes the pig, whose name, as you may recall, is Pigsy, back to meet Tripitaka, who's overjoyed to have another disciple to help him out. Everything is resolved shockingly quickly, and the patriarch cow throws a big fancy banquet for a newly expanded troop of heroes, and then our protagonists continue on their way. So shortly thereafter, they encounter a friendly Zen master known as the Crow's Nest Zen Master, who warns Tripitaka that, surprise, the journey will be absolutely packed with monsters and demons. But it's not like Tripitaka needs to be totally helpless. The Zen Master teaches him a sutra called the Heart Sutra that'll hypothetically keep him safe from harm when he recites it. Then he casually insults Wukong and Pigsy, warns Tripitaka to keep an eye out for a water spirit in the near future, and zips back up to his nest. So our heroes continue westward when they abruptly encounter a tiger demon who introduces himself by ripping off his own skin. So they fight the demon for a little while, but finding himself outclassed, the tiger demon tosses his skin over a rock as a decoy and runs away, but not before grabbing Tripitaka. So the tiger demon takes Tripitaka to his lord, a cave demon, and they start debating how best to cook him. Meanwhile, Wukong and Pigsy figure out that the tiger demon escaped with Tripitaka, and Wukong immediately charges off to find him. So they find the lair of the cave demon pretty quickly, and the cave demon sends out the tiger vanguard to fight Wukong. Yeah, you know how this part goes. Wukong kicks the tiger demon's ass, but this time, when the tiger demon runs away, Pigsy comes out of nowhere and kill steals like a boss. This is a very accurate representation of his overall characterization for the rest of the story. Anyway, Wukong flies back to the cave with the tiger demon's corpse and taunts the cave demon until he comes out to fight. So they fight for a while and are actually pretty evenly matched, but when Wukong busts out his special attack and duplicates himself, the cave demon counters with his own PSOP special and whips up a veritable hurricane of wind that blasts Wukong with enough force to temporarily blind him, making it impossible for him to continue fighting. Wukong and Pigsy manage to escape and try to figure out what to do next, and they find their way to a nearby cottage where a friendly old man and several young farmers let them stay the night. The old man also gives Wukong a healing balm for his eyes, and when he wakes up the next morning, he can conveniently see again. This is also when he learns that the cottage never existed, and that the old man and the farmers who took care of them were some of the heavenly spirits assigned to help Tripitaka on his pilgrimage. Okay, the rules for what these god dudes can and can't do are hella arbitrary. I'm starting to think they're just messing with them. So Wukong decides to try the stealth route for this particular mission and turns into a mosquito to sneak into the cave demon's lair, whereupon he finds that Tripitaka is both still alive and rather grumpy at his delayed rescue. On his way out, he overhears that one of the cave demon's minions ran into Pigsy, but obviously didn't see Wukong. So the cave demon speculates that either he managed to kill Wukong with his wind, or the Monkey King ran off to get help. But that'd be absurd, because there's only one person who can resist the cave demon's wind, and that's the Bodhisattva Ling Chi. So Wukong zips back to Pigsy, and with a little help from the disguised Gold Star of Venus, my god, that is all he does. They find their way to the home of Ling Chi, where Wukong explains the situation. The Bodhisattva explains that he previously defeated the cave demon, but allowed him to remain in the mountain so long as he didn't hurt anyone. Seeing as this rule has been broken, Ling Chi grabs the flying dragon staff and prepares to unleash some righteous butt-whooping. So they fly back to the mountain, Wukong busts down the door, and he goes a few rounds with the cave demon before the demon starts charging his special attack. But right before he unleashes it, Ling Chi throws the flying dragon staff at him, whereupon it turns into an actual dragon and punts the cave demon into a mountain so hard that he reverts back to his true form, which is apparently a mink. So Wukong and Pigsy rescue Tripitaka, then get lunch and continue on their merry way. So soon enough, they reach a huge turbulent river, which would be bad enough on its own. Then a huge monstrous demon pops out of the river and makes the situation even worse. Wukong nopes out of there with Tripitaka in tow while Pigsy and the river spirit fight. Wukong stands guard for all of 5 minutes before the need to assert his badass status takes hold, and he dives into the battle, whereupon he immediately ends it by whacking the river spirit really hard. The spirit freaks out and dives back into the river, whereupon our heroes start planning their next move. They agree that, unfortunately, the river spirit is probably their best bet for getting Tripitaka across the river, but there's just one problem. Wukong actually sucks ass at fighting underwater, so it's it's up to Pigsy to go down there, lure the spirit up to the surface, and then let Wukong kick his ass on dry land. The plan works pretty well, except Wukong is, say it with me now, too impulsive, and the spirit dives back into the river as soon as he sees the Monkey King coming at him. They try again the next day, but this time the river spirit is wise to their tricks and refuses to take the bait at all. Wukong finally decides that the best thing to do in this situation is to go find Kuan Yin, since she wouldn't have sent them on an impossible journey, so she has to have a plan. And unsurprisingly, she does. See, this river spirit is, say it with me now, the same one she found on her way to Chang'an, and the first spirit she enlisted to help Tripitaka on his way. She sends Moksha back to Wukong, whereupon he calls the spirit up with the by name that Kuan Yin gave him, Wu Qing. So Wu Qing, aka Sandy, learns that the scripture pilgrim was right there the whole time, and if either of his disciples had bothered to mention anything about the scriptures, this whole debacle could have been avoided. Once again, good communication fails to save the day. So now all our protagonists are assembled. Tripitaka, the mortal divine monk at the heart of the story, Sun Wukong, the impulsive but insanely powerful muscle of the group, Pigsy, the gluttonous celestial soldier seeking forgiveness, Sandy, also a disgraced celestial warrior and the only party member who can swim, and the horse. Hey, you were in a river when they first found you. You clearly know how to swim. Why couldn't you fight Sandy? Or just take Tripitaka across the river in the first place? Don't give me that kind of backtalk. What do you even do? I don't care if you're an allegorical representation of the human will. You're a goddamn dragon. You have no business being this disappointing. Okay, so now that the story's been entirely set up and our cast has been assembled, the journey to the west becomes very episodic. It's a real monster of the week kind of thing, with a new mountain and corresponding monster every couple chapters. Now, they're all good, and you should really just read the books. But for the sake of education and also pure fun, I'm going to be covering the more memorable, dramatic, or funny episodes in a series of shorter videos with one to each episode, while skipping over the filler and the 8-chapter power-up sequences. So get ready for Journey to the West, Kai! Last time on Journey to the West, the virtuous monk Tripitaka found himself added to the menu of an evil cave demon, whose powerful wind laid even the mighty Sun Wukong low. With the help of the Bodhisattva Ling Chi, Sun Wukong and Tripitaka's new disciple Pigsy found a way to defeat the cave demon and save their master, only to encounter a new threat in the form of a cunning and powerful river spirit that barred their way. Unable to fight him underwater, Sun Wukong again had to rely on the skills of Pigsy to lure the demon out, but when even that failed, he called upon the merciful Kuan Yin to intercede on their behalf. The river spirit turned into an unlikely ally when it was revealed that Kuan Yin had previously enlisted him as Tripitaka's third disciple. Now, with all our allies assembled, we are finally ready to embark on the journey to the west. So our heroes are trekking westward through a particularly uninhabited stretch of mountain when Tripitaka's tummy starts getting the rumblies and he tells Monkey to go find him some vegetarian food. So Monkey flies off to get him some fruit or something, in the process disturbing the local mountain demon, the white bone spirit, who pops out to see what's up. She sees Tripitaka and immediately realizes he's the monk all the demons are talking about, and that because he's the reincarnation of Golden Cicada and has pursued a perfect monk lifestyle, if she eats him, she'll become immortal. So she's about to swoop down and grab him then and there, but she recognizes Sandy and Pigsy as two former celestial warriors and backs off, resolving to be sneakier about this. So she disguises herself as a beautiful young woman and minces over to Tripitaka with some delicious poisoned rice for him. So Pigsy immediately gets his flirt on while the white bone spirit spins a sob story about having to care for her aging parents that she totally has. So while she's trying to convince Tripitaka to eat her delicious not at all poisoned rice, Monkey flies back with an armload of peaches and immediately sees that this girl is a demon with his special demon eyes. So he drops everything and whips out his murder stick, but Tripitaka panics and grabs him because seriously, dude, at least explain your motivation. So Monkey's like, all right, dude, listen, disguising yourself as a hot chick, that's like man-eating demon trick number 1. Hell, I did it all the time back when I ate people. Amazingly, this stirring argument fails to convince Tripitaka. So Monkey's like, all right, I get it. You think she's hot. How about I give you two lovebirds a little privacy? And while Tripitaka's paralyzed with embarrassment, Monkey smacks the demon in the face. Tripitaka's like,
Monkey, what the hell?
Well, Monkey points out that the delicious, totally not poisoned rice had rotted and filled with maggots as soon as he killed her, which is not typically a trait of healthy food. So Tripitaka almost believes him until Pigsy, extremely salty about Monkey ruining his chances to score, goes all, oh, sure, come on, what's more likely? That Monkey just killed a demon, or that Monkey just murdered an innocent girl and used his powers to make you think he killed a demon? So Tripitaka gets really mad and uses the magic migraine spell, then tells Monkey that a killer can't be one of his disciples, but Monkey manages to persuade him to let him stay, and the group awkwardly treks on after burying the totally innocent girl. Speaking of, the white bone spirit had actually dropped her body right at the moment of impact and skedaddled off into the sky, leaving her body below. She starts working on how to get rid of Monkey so she can get some of that sweet man flesh. So she turns into an elderly woman and hobbles up to the group like, excuse me, have any of you seen my beautiful innocent daughter that totally came this way a little while ago? I'd hate to think that something happened to her. So Monkey obviously insta-kills her again, and Tripitaka flips out, uses the migraine spell, and with Pigsy's encouragement, kicks him out of the group again. But Monkey's like, all right, but if you're gonna kick me out, could you at least get this stupid thing off first? Which is when everyone learns that Tripitaka has no idea how to get Monkey's cursed hat off his head. So he agrees to keep Monkey on as a disciple, since it wouldn't be fair to cut him loose without actually cutting him loose, and they continue on together. Soon enough, they spot a totally innocent old man in the distance, and Pigsy's like, oh, horror of horrors! Clearly this is the patriarch of the family that Sun Wukong so callously murdered for no reason. Clearly Monkey will use his great powers to escape justice and leave us to take the blame. Oh, horror of horrors! Clearly Sun Wukong has bewitched this innocent old man's corpse to look like the body of a demon. In case you haven't noticed, Tripitaka is supremely gullible in this chapter, so sure enough, it's migraine time and getting kicked out of the group o'clock. This time, Monkey's like, all right, you know what? Fine. And after Tripitaka writes an official letter of banishment and Monkey is aggressively polite in taking his leave, Monkey warns Sandy not to buy into Pigsy's BS and then blasts off. Nice one, Tripitaka. So Monkey returns to his home on Flower Fruit Mountain, only to find it in ruins. Turns out after Monkey got sealed away, Erlang burned the whole place down for funsies. The remaining monkeys are being hunted every day by a huge band of hunters. So Monkey decides the time has come for some much-needed stress relief and brings down the wrath of Wukong on the hunters the next time they appear. So while Monkey's having having the time of his life as king of the mountain again, the story shifts back to Tripitaka and friends. But let's take a minute to step out of the story and examine it on a meta level, because what just happened was fascinating. This text is centuries old, but the way Monkey's acting could be lifted directly and put in something modern, and it'd make perfect sense. After getting kicked out and losing his purpose, Monkey is visibly emotionally unstable, oscillating between heartbreaking homesickness, the cathartic rage, to overzealous partying and back again. Like, there's no need to dig deep here. His emotional responses are there for all the world to see. And the reason for that is because we can't forget that the journey to the West is an allegory, and Monkey represents the mind. Monkey just gave up on everything he was trying to do, which was to get Tripitaka to the Thunderclap Monastery. He's basically going through an existential crisis, and the book is representing that perfectly because it's kind of the point of the book. It's like an allegorical roadmap. This is a part of the journey where you'll probably be feeling these things and facing these temptations. The characters feel real and genuine in their reactions to things because they all represent vital components of the human mind, and the way they act is the way we act. It's not like Beowulf, where he's a great and noble king with very little else to define him. These characters are meant to feel real, to be something we can see ourselves in. This book is really good. Anyway, so Tripitaka and friends enter a super ominous pine forest, whereupon things immediately go wrong. First, Pigsy fails to find Tripitaka any food and opts to take a nap instead. Then, while Sandy goes to look for him, Tripitaka enters a pagoda to light incense and pray, and manages to wake up a sleeping demon in the process and get insta-captured. So Sandy manages to find Pigsy and drags him back to the camp, whereupon they find Tripitaka missing and reason that he probably went to check out that beautiful pagoda in the distance. It's only when they get closer that Sandy realizes it's actually a demon cave, at which point Pigsy decides that picking a fight with the demon sounds like a great idea. So they fight, and it's pretty cool. But even with the backup of the various gods that have been assisting Tripitaka on his path, Sandy and Pigsy can only fight the demon to a standstill. But while that's going on, Tripitaka meets with a stroke of luck. Turns out the demon's wife is a kidnapped princess named Hundred Flowers Shane, who's willing to help him in exchange for him delivering news of her whereabouts to her family in the West. So she frees Tripitaka, gives him a letter, and convinces her husband to stop beating up his friends. Tripitaka and friends hurry out the back door and continue westward, soon coming across the very kingdom Hundred Flowers Shane was stolen from. Tripitaka delivers the letter to the king, who's profoundly grateful to finally know what happened to his daughter, but sadly says that they're unequipped to stage a rescue if it involves fighting a demon. But surely Tripitaka must be able to, if he's managed to make it this far already. So Tripitaka reluctantly summons his disciples, whereupon the king asks which of them is better at slaying demons. Pigsy gets his brag on and starts showing off his powers, which soundly convinces the king that he's perfectly equipped to go off and fight the same demon he was having worlds of trouble with last time. So Pigsy zips off for the rematch of the century, with Sandy tagging along to make sure he doesn't hurt himself. So Pigsy breaks down the door and proceeds to get his ass soundly kicked, so he excuses himself and runs away, leaving Sandy to try and fight the demon himself. This goes predictably poorly, and Sandy gets captured while Pigsy hides in a thorn bush. So the demon reasons that the disciples must have come back because the princess snuck a letter out with them and confronts her about it. Obviously, she denies it, and when he interrogates Sandy about it, he catches on and denies it too. So the demon immediately switches off the murderous intent and gets all buddy-buddy with his wife again. He then decides to pay a visit to his father-in-law, shapeshifting himself into something a little more presentable. So the demon heads over to the king's court and spins a sob story about some shapeshifting tiger demon he saw threatening the princess way back when. So he drove it off and saved her life, and then married her because she never told him she was a princess. And hey, look, that guy over there was totally the demon I was talking about. So the demon spins an illusion around Tripitaka, making him look like a tiger monster, which is all the evidence the king needs to have Tripitaka locked up. So things look pretty terrible, right? I mean, Sandy's been captured, Pigsy's off hiding somewhere, Tripitaka's been locked up, and Monkey's back on Flower Fruit Mountain without a care in the world. Who could possibly rescue Tripitaka now? That's right, it's finally the horse dragon's time to shine. So the dragon turns back to his true form and scouts out the palace a little, and sees that the demon has returned to his true form and is currently in the process of eating his attendants and drinking all the wine in the palace. So the dragon shapeshifts into a beautiful young woman, scoots into the hall, impressing the demon with magic tricks and singing for him. Soon enough, the demon asks if she can dance, and the dragon's like, oh, a little, but it'll look much better if I use swords. So she does a little sword dance for him until she spots her opening and takes a swing. The dragon turns back to his true form and does battle with the demon for a while, but he's clearly outclassed and ends up having to run after his leg gets injured. He hides at the bottom of the moat until the demon loses interest and then turns back into a horse and limps into the stable for the night. Soon, however, Pigsy comes crawling back, hoping to get some help in rescuing Sandy. Instead, he gets chewed out by the horse for being too overconfident and ruining everything. Pigsy decides the same course of action would be to pack his things and return to his peaceful life in the village with his own kidnapped wife, but the horse is having precisely none of his sass today and refuses to let him leave, unless it's to go apologize to Monkey and get him to sort this all out. So Pigsy reluctantly flies off to Flower Fruit Mountain, whereupon he finds Sun Wukong hanging out with his enormous monkey army. Pigsy tries to sneak closer, but Monkey spots the intruder and has his monkeys bring him up to the front. He immediately recognizes Pigsy, and after being assured that he hasn't been banished too, Pigsy, rather than owning up to the disaster scenario, instead tells Monkey that nothing's wrong. Tripitaka just missed him so much. So Monkey's like, neat, in that case, let's just hang out for a little while. So Monkey leisurely spends his morning hanging out on his beautiful mountain and eating fruit, while Pigsy tries to find ways to persuade Monkey to leave right this second without seeming too desperate. After a while, Pigsy's like, well, we sure kept our master waiting. We should probably go. Monkey's like, oh yeah, great. See ya. Pigsy's like, wait, you're not coming? Monkey's like, no, I got banished, remember? Besides, I got a good thing going here. Tell Tripitaka not to bother me again. So Pigsy leaves, but he's only a few miles down the mountain before he starts ranting and insulting Monkey. So Wukong has his monkeys recapture Pigsy and bring him back to explain his poor manners. So the truth comes out as Pigsy explains how everything went wrong, although he does embellish a little to motivate Monkey to come help him. So Monkey flies to the demon's lair and immediately abducts two of the demon's children, offering to release them in exchange for Sandy. The princess runs back inside and frees him, and Monkey, after reuniting with Sandy, sends them off to the palace with the two kids in tow to lure out the demon and bring him back to his lair. Meanwhile, Monkey shapeshifts into the princess and waits in the cave for the demon to return. So
Goku's got that tail, so this is a Goku character. All right, well, let's just wrap that for now.